Hey, good evening, Bronx friends and neighbors, and welcome to Bronx Talk. When a 9-time Grammy Award nominee, who is one of the Bronx's greatest music legends, and like me is a member of the Bronx Walk of Fame, tells you he has an exciting new album coming out that was recorded in the Bronx, and wonders if we would feature it on Bronx Talk, the answer is absolutely yes. So tonight, to talk about and show us video of the new live album that's called Arsenio and Beyond by the fabulous Bobby Sanabria Multiverse Big Band, it is Maestro Bobby Sanabria. Nice to see you again.
Same here, Gary. Thanks for always allowing me to share my thoughts.
Your thoughts and your music. Before we get, this album is amazing. It is totally Bronx. It was recorded here, but I think this is your 9th appearance. I don't think I've ever asked you this. When was the first time that somebody put a drum or other percussive instrument in your hands?
Oh.
And at that time, did you say to yourself, wow, this is great? Or was it a developmental thing?
Well, when I was about 12 years old, the soundtrack of the Bronx was, especially in the South Bronx, were people, particularly of Puerto Rican descent, playing Cuban rumba, which is just conga drums, voice, and the last element is a dance. And the last element is dance in the streets. Yeah. So this is I'll make this story as short as I can. When I was about 11, 12 years old, there was a guy in my building in the Melrose Projects named Chicky who played conga. He had a beautiful sound. He was an electrician, but he would play in the streets, and there was a kid that was younger than me. He had a cowbell, and he was trying to keep up with them, and he couldn't. So I said to myself, man, I could play that rhythm, and I know I could do it. And then finally, wow. I got the gumption to say, let me try. And he says, you can't, Chicky says, you can't try, whatever. So I did, and the cowbell sounded lousy. I was in time, but the cowbell sounded lousy. So Chicky said, I knew you couldn't do it. And then another gentleman who lived in the same building said to him, no, he's playing correctly. He says, listen, kid, the bell has a crack in it. Hold it near the mouth and squeeze, and it'll take the bad sound out.
So you actually were learning how to do it.
Right.
And then from then on.
I did it, and I kept up with them for like 8 minutes or so, and everybody applauded. So
last
that was the
thing
first
I'm going to say, and it's very timely, Willie Colon told me the same sort of thing. The great Willie Colon who just passed.
Yeah,
he said, when I said to him, when did you start with the trumpet? And when he said they were playing it in the street in my neighborhood,
right,
in the South Bronx. Same thing.
Yeah.
All right, Arsenio and Beyond. I had never heard the name before. Arsenio Rodriguez,
right,
known as the father of salsa.
Well, without him, there's no salsa, and he's the rhythmic DNA of Afro-Cuban jazz, the first form of Latin jazz too. And a lot of scholars say he's the rhythmic DNA of rock and roll, R&B, and funk, specifically because of the bass lines that he would come up with in his group. Arsenio was the first person to adapt the conga drum to dance band performance, playing what we call son, which is the Cuban folk song tradition from the eastern part of Cuba. It's the foundational form of what we call salsa today. And in the bands that played that music, there was no conga drum, just a bongo player. And Arsenio played the tres, which is the mandolin-like guitar of Cuba. It's got 3 sets of double strings, and it's a guitar with a company and a bass. And Arsenio had the bright idea. He said, well, it'll sound even better if we add a piano player. So he added Lili Martinez.
So he literally developed that music right in front of our eyes.
And instead of one trumpet playing ad libitum, he had 2 trumpets, then 3 trumpets, eventually 4 trumpets with arrangements. Even though he was blind, he insisted that the musicians be able to read music. And he developed the Mambo horn concept. So I could go on, but without him, there's no salsa today. And he lived in the Bronx at one time.
I was waiting for you to mention that he was sight impaired, that he was blind. The story is, and I learned about this, he got kicked in the head by a horse at the age of 9, allegedly, and lost his sight. It's incredible. But the last thing I want to say about that is that he did all this stuff that you're talking about with that quote-unquote disability, with that handicap.
Right. The accounts differ. Some people say it was a mule. Some people say it was a horse. He lost one eye completely. The other eye, he could see partially, but by the time he became a teenager, He was completely blind.
Incredible.
And he became, his sobriquet became El Ciego Maravilloso, the blind marvel.
Do you think salsa players now even know who he was or anything? Or at this point, doesn't really matter?
Not really. The general public doesn't. An educated musician that cares about the history does
Would know, of course.
But his memory has fallen by the wayside. And it's funny because he's buried in the Ferncliff Cemetery here in Westchester County, above the Bronx.
Right
and
here.
for many years, there was just a number there.
Not even his name.
Yeah, and
Wow.
then finally, through the efforts of Rafael Mendez and Henry Medina and Larry Harlow, yours truly, and Elena Martinez, the great folklorist and my wife and co-artistic director at the Bronx Music Hall with me, we got Arsenio not only a headstone, but and Larry paid for it, and kudos to him. And we got him a plaza named in the South Bronx, right near where he lived.
Oh, really? I wasn't even
Yeah,
aware of that.
yeah.
So now knowing this legacy, when you said, I want to pay homage to this great musician and great innovator, what did you do and how did you come up with the tracks that are on there? What were those? What did you do in that to pay homage to Arsenio Rodriguez?
Well, Arsenio was known for that sound that became known as the conjunto sound, and he developed the mambo rhythm that we use today, which is a foundational rhythm we use in what we call salsa today, and the mid-tempo funky son montuno, which is very hard driving. Those two rhythms are the basic rhythmic DNA of what we call salsa today. Arsenio's group was a trumpet-based group. My Multiverse Big Band is 5 saxophones, 4 trumpets, and 4 trombones, myself on drums and vocals, congas, bongo, a hand percussionist, bass player, pianist, a dedicated flute chair, that person plays piccolo as well, and we have in the role of Arsenio for this album, the great Benjamin Lapidas, not an acoustic tres, but on an electric tres.
There you
So
go.
there you
This was a concert that you did?
Yes.
And you recorded the whole thing?
Right, the Bronx Music Hall, the place for all, yeah.
So what I want to do, you sent us some video.
Yeah.
And these are the tracks that are on the album. Let's roll this first one, and you'll be able to see it there. And you can comment. You'll know it much better than I do. Obviously, we could go on. I know Jennifer Jade Ledesma, of course, very well.
Great
And
vocalist.
who is the other vocalist?
The great Geraldo Contino from Cuba. Jennifer's from the Bronx. She's half Dominican, half Puerto Rican, but all Bronx. And she's amazing because she can sing in 11 languages and speaks 4 to 5 fluently. So very lucky that I have these talented individuals. That song that you heard, that is in the son montuno style that Arsenio developed, as I said before, medium tempo, very funky, hard driving. And the song in and of itself has another innovation by Arsenio, which was he always paid homage to the African roots of the music because he himself was of Bantu Congolese descent from West Central Africa, from the place called the Congo, which used to be called Zaire. So that song, you hear it in the beginning, it's a mixture, is what we call lengua bosal, a mixture of Bantu Congo and Spanish. And the song No Quiero by him, arranged beautifully by Takao Heisho, is a song dealing with the battle with the devil. You know?
I tell you, from listening to it and watching the videos, this is an extraordinary recording. First of all, the Bronx Music Hall, you want to talk about why it's so important that something like this was done there. But the record, you've got 25 players. right? 25, 27?
No, 24.
24, I was counting. Maybe I missed somebody. But to mic that thing, to get everybody mic'd and to
Right.
get it balanced right, this is not like, a 4-piece rock band
Right.
where you can mic everybody and then you mix and decide. This is very complicated.
Yeah.
I'm preaching to the choir, right?
Yeah, yeah.
How did you do it? Tell us all.
With a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. We only had one rehearsal the day before the concert, and we weren't able to go through all the pieces. There were 2 more pieces we had to go over, and I told the musicians, "Don't worry, we'll rehearse those 2 pieces at the sound check." So there was a lot of pressure on me, the musicians, but I'm very lucky because I live here in New York City, and I have access to the best musicians in New York. That means they're the best musicians in the world.
Jazz is what it is, and it's free form. How planned is it with all of the musicians that what they do, or do you just trust that they know where they're going and can fit individually into the scheme so that it makes sense and it sounds as great as you're going to hear more of it that it sounds?
We have obviously arrangements, just like Arsenio did, but they're blown up to this orchestra, the Multiverse Big Band. And but there are certain spots where the musicians get to improvise, and I pick and choose who the featured players are going to be. The great thing about this band is that everyone is a soloist. So everybody gets a taste on this album. And I'm very fortunate also because the 2 singers are fabulous improvisers as well. So we have the best of both worlds. And this,
both worlds of all worlds,
yeah.
all 24 worlds. I almost said 25.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's 25. You're right,
Oh,
25.
there we go.
But the thing is, this album is a departure for me because it is the most danceable album I've ever done. Fundamentally, the Multiverse Big Band is a concert jazz orchestra with a lot of Latin elements to it. But at a moment's notice, and anybody that has seen us live in concert knows this, we can turn instantaneously into just a jaw-dropping dance orchestra for people just to dance. So what I wanted to do with this album was not only pay homage to Arsenio, but also to the fact that we used to have these incredible nightclubs in the Bronx, like and ballrooms like the Concourse Plaza Hotel, the Savoy Manor, the Hunts Point Palace, etc. And you get the spirit of that because, first of all, the recording was done live in front of an audience,
right?
And the music is for dancing, but with a lot of jazz elements to it.
I pulled that. Well, you sent it to us, but I made sure I wanted to show this. This is the percussion section, Elemento del Bronx. Let's see what that is. All right, there you go.
Yeah.
Is
That's yours truly on the drums.
Well,
and I have to
obviously.
mention my great percussionist,
Well, that's what I wanted you to do. Go ahead.
Matthew Gonzalez on the bongo, and also percussion, and also Puerto Rican barril de bomba, because we use certain rhythms from our ancestors, both our ancestral homelands, Puerto Rico. Oreta Abrantes, he's one of the featured lead singers along with Jennifer and Gerardo. He's on the congas. And Takao Heisho is on the minor percussion. And Takao is a very talented young man. He contributed an original composition to the album.
Is it challenging for them to be with you because you know a lot about it? And so, like, do they ask you for advice, or do you say, no, you're a pro, do your thing?
Well, they make my life easier because all of them read music. So the rehearsals go very smoothly. And when I ask them to do something, they instantaneously deliver. And if they don't know a certain style, I'll show them, and they instantaneously adapt. and it's a pleasure having this heavy artillery
It's
behind
really,
me. You know?
it's really heavy, but I'm very I'm admiring the recording process to get that right, because not only do you have to get it on tape and get it right, but somebody's got to mix it.
Well, I have to thank Jim Gately. He's been with me since our first Grammy-nominated album back in 2000, which was Afro-Cuban Dream Live in Enclave. We've been very fortunate. Every album we've put out with this band has been nominated for a Grammy.
I'm well aware.
And,
this one will get the Grammy. Hey, Grammy folks, take a listen.
Well,
you know.
we hope so. We hope so.
Yeah.
But the main thing is that I have to thank profusely also Jimmy Cavetas, our house sound person at the Bronx Music Hall, and his whole team of people. That it wasn't just him. It was a group of other engineers too that made the process simple and got basic. What you want to do is you want to capture what happened
Exactly
on stage and have also the sound agreeable to the musicians on stage.
And what
as well.
makes it so, to me, so beautiful and so wonderful, as it was, that's what you're going to hear, as opposed to nowadays. You know, I don't have to tell folks. They'll put down the drum track, and then they'll edit in, and then
Right.
they'll sample something. None of that. This is live, people. And what I want to show, I love this, because the notion of a flute player doing a solo with a violin player.
Right.
I don't know every bit of music in the world. I don't know if I've ever seen anything like it.
Right. Well, it's part of the tradition in Cuban music in a style known as charanga, which is a band with flute and violins. And I love that sound, and that's part of what we do in the Multiverse.
Well, here we go. Let's take a look. This is the flute and violin solo on Yo Nací. Did I pronounce that right?
Yo nací en Africa. I was born in Africa.
All right, here we go. Bobby just mentioned to me, I'm holding up my hand because I'm cueing everybody. So now get this, he only has two hands, but he plays the drums while he's cueing the orchestra.
And sometimes I'm singing, yeah.
Yeah.
And just to mention briefly, that was the great Gabriel Garo on the flute, and the equally talented Benjamin Sutton on the violin. Gabby has been on tour with Karol G as of late, and she was touring before with Beyonce, and she was touring with who else? Lizzo as
Really?
well. Yeah.
So she's doing all the little things. The
Yeah,
little,
yeah.
the little gigs.
Let me just
So-
turn off
no,
my phone.
that's-
This is live TV, so
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
The next one I want to show is a bolero duet, La Vida es un Sueño.
La vida es un sueño. That
He
was
says it much better than I'm a gringo. You know.
Life is but a dream. That was basically Arsenio's. He was known for his up-tempo mambos, guarachas, and funky son montunos, but he could get down with romantic ballads. But this is a very pensive ballad because it's translated into Life is but a dream. There was a benefit for him put together by the great Cuban singer Miguelito Valdez to get money for him to fly to New York to see Dr. Castroviejo, who had just been experimenting with corneal transplants and had cured a woman of her blindness. So they were hoping that he would be able to cure Arsenio. When he got to New York City and he examined him, he said, "Lo siento, maestro, es un caso perdido." I'm sorry, maestro, it's a lost cause. You'll never be able to see again. So on the trip back, he wrote this beautiful pensive bolero talking about all the slings and arrows that you suffer when in life, but you still have to celebrate it and live it to the fullest.
So let's watch a quick segment of it, and then I want to ask you something else which is related to that. So let's take a look. This is La Vida es un Sueño.
gozar lo que puedas gozar.
It's so beautiful. I mean,
Yes.
really, it tears your heartstrings.
Arsenio
But-
was a poet, most definitely.
Bobby just said something to me which made a lot of sense to me. Where do you go from here? Go ahead, and I like the idea.
Oh, well, people have asked me all the time, well, what are your goals with this band or with your career, this, that? One of the goals that I have is this orchestra to play on Saturday Night Live.
Let's go, yeah.
to
Come on,
blow-
where's the crew? Come on,
to
give me a little hand there.
to blow everybody's mind and curve their spine to show the majesty of our culture from the Caribbean.
This, which of course we had that dialogue when we talked about the Bad Bunny Super Bowl show.
Right.
But this brings up something that I really do want to ask you. How long, either a period of time, did you plan out and say, you know what, we ought to do something for Arsenio Rodriguez? Or was it just, hey, this is a good idea, and then you put it together?
You have to thank my wife, the incredible Elena Martinez, who is, I like to call her the funky folklorist. She is very renowned in the ethnomusicology, folklore community, cultural awareness community as a folklorist. She's also a great documentary film producer, and she's my partner in time at the Bronx Music Hall. And it was her idea to do this because she told me, look, you got a grant to do one concert at the Bronx Music Hall.
So that's what this was
I says,
about?
I go, yeah, I know, I'm still debating what to do. She goes, why don't you do tribute to Arsenio? He lived in the Bronx. He was in the community. He even wrote a song in honor of the Bronx, El Elemento del Bronx, the element of the Bronx. You're a Bronxite, etc. He lived very close to where you grew up in the South Bronx, etc., etc. And we had done a concert before, years ago, when I was on the faculty at Manhattan School of Music, in honor of Arsenio with my students. So I still had all that music. She goes, you still have that music, you can update it and add some music of people that were inspired by Arsenio, and that's what we did.
Do you consult with other musicians, or you pretty much put the framework together and then,
No, it's me. It's
really?
me.
Wow.
Because too many cooks in the kitchen spoil the dish.
I'm trying to measure, which is, by the way, let's put up the album cover so people can see it. It's going to be on sale. People can download how they.
It's available now on all platforms. Yeah.
And all platforms. There it is. Arsenio.
There's Arsenio in the multiverse. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You got him right in the middle there. This last track that I want to show, and the crew was saying, well, what about this one? I said, I want to show this last because to me, and I've known you obviously for many years, this is Bobby being Bobby as a performer. I mean, he does a lot of things. He's obviously a world-renowned encyclopedia about this music, but this to me is Bobby being Bobby. Let's go.
Everybody stand up, todo el mundo de pie. If you like what you hear, say yeah. Yeah. If you like what you hear, say oh yeah. Oh yeah. If you like what you hear, say oh yeah. Oh yeah. And if you like what you hear, scream.
There you go. that is Bobby. Come on, everybody. Are we here together or we're not? That's the way he plays the game.
That's the Bronx.
That is the Bronx.
Whether it's in the old days, Kool Herc jamming in the park with the Technics turntable, or somebody throwing records down in a house party, or us getting down in the club or in the concert hall.
The South Bronx music that was in the streets that inspired both you and Willie Colon and so many others.
Yes.
I wanted, before we run away, I want to ask about the Latin Jazz Cruise that you host now on Saturdays from 4 to 6 p.m. For a healthy serving of Latin favorite jazz as a part of WBGO's Rhythm and Song Weekends. Why do you love doing it? You've been doing this a little while, and
it's about 8 years now.
Yeah, and why do you love it? What do you?
Because I get to educate the audience. Latin-oriented jazz is not just Afro-Cuban rhythms or Brazilian rhythms, which are the two main streams. Now, and I predicted this years ago, people were asking me, what is the future of jazz? I said, the future of jazz is in Latin America, because you have all these countries in Latin America and everybody there, in terms of young people that are well-educated musicians, are fervently studying jazz, and they're combining jazz harmony and arranging technique and improvisational techniques with what? The folkloric rhythms of their own countries. So you have people in Ecuador, Colombia, et cetera, experimenting with the folklore from their countries. People in Argentina, and of course my ancestral homeland, Puerto Rico. So there's a big, incredible rainbow of rhythms that we are just really starting to draw upon in a big way.
I wonder how many people who are involved in creating that music are aware of all, because you know the names, and you've educated me about all the different instruments. Listen, Bobby, I also took a look at your itinerary. This was a personal thing. I went to your web. It's BobbySanabria.com, folks. So we could look. I just want you to see. Look at this guy. Every, and I'm going to use Bronx language. Every freaking day, Bobby Sanabria is doing something else. On April 23rd, he's going to be at the Bronx Music Hall on East 163rd at the Wedco Gala. April 24th at Dizzy's Club downtown at Columbus Circle. April 27 at the Vision Center, West 23rd Street. Do something nice for people. And then April 30th. And that's only April. The thing goes on. You can't stop, can you?
Well, I'm very.
The answer is no, he can't. Go ahead.
I work best when I'm busy, and I think that is true of everyone. You don't want to be sitting around just wasting time. But when I do have some downtime, I'm always doing research and
obvious.
And learning more and more about our culture and our collective history.
Look at this. Look for the CD, Arsenio and Beyond. Check out BobbySanabria.com. Thank you so much for your time. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Gary. And always, we love you because you are definitely a Bronxite and a supporter of everything that we do as Bronxites. So long live this mighty borough.
You know we both agree. That concludes the program. Thanks to our producer and our great crew. And of course to you too. And he knows, and I know, it's always about the people of the Bronx. We'll see you next week. We're going to talk about, and you'll find out what it means, our Bronx. See you.